This is the last of this webinar series, that we've, targeted back to the future, looking at next generation new menu trends. Next month, the 5th of December, we're going to be doing our holiday party. So that's always a fun one. And we put everybody on live so that wants to come on live. So you come on, you can do a cheers, you can say something, welcome everybody. But I think it's a fun thing to do, especially that time of the year, early part of December before it gets totally crazy. But today I'm really excited. We have Julie Lim. She's a senior advisor of food service for the brand Passport. She's going to talk to us about the history of Stroopwafels, which is a tremendous history over 100 years, and also trends from other pastries and desserts, a little bit more about what's happening in Europe and how that translates to here. And then James Bickmore-Hutt is going to join us in a little while. He's the Associate Director of Culinary Innovation, Corporate Executive Chef for Dole Packaged Foods. And he's going to be talking about mocktails and cocktails. And the reason these two are together is Julie will kind of lead into, with her presentation, about using her products that they represent as actually garnishes for mocktails and things, and as garnishes and desserts and other things. So it's a great transition into coming into the holiday season and talking about mocktails and cocktails. So anyway, Julie, let's get you started.
I'm thrilled to be here. I am a senior advisor to the brand Passport, and I'm going to talk a little bit about what what brand Passport is and what we do and what I do for the organization. This was our first year. We actually joined GCIA as a sponsor in May and had our first experience at NRA. And then we just attended and just came back from Nashville, where I had the pleasure of meeting many of the GCIA members and sponsors and sing a bunch of karaoke and have a bunch of fun. So I'm thrilled to be here and share a little bit about our products and some trends that I think support the growth of this category, not just in consumer awareness, but actually in food service. And if you have any questions, I'm happy to answer them. So welcome. So I don't know if those of you who actually know what a Stroopwafel is, but it is actually a delicious, actually too delicious. We had Alex at the conference eating like 18 a day. But it is 2 waffles with just made with true, authentic European butter with caramel in between. It has just really cinnamon notes to it, caramel, maple, and because of the flavor and the product, it's used in a variety of ways. Obviously, we've taken a product that's actually traditionally used to put just on top of coffee, and we've been able to put into desserts and mocktails and cocktails and have a lot of fun with it and make it more broad mainstream. And we have a lot of, you'll see throughout the presentation, a lot of people who are aware of the product in the US. It's not just a European staple, but yes, to Kevin's point, it's been around for a very, very, very long time. So here's some other fun kind of desserts. The best part about it is that you can actually take the product and put it into almost anything, whether it's savory or desserts, make it into an ice cream sandwich. We have a lot of fun with putting it in charcuterie boards and even putting like a lava cake on top of it to create just a little bit of pizzazz on top of the traditional desserts that you may already have. And people have crushed them and crumbled them and actually put it into milkshakes and toppings and crumbles onto delicious cake pops, etc. So lots
what
of
is on the top right, Julie? What is that? Is that a cake
that's
pop?
Actually like a cake pop with
that's cool.
With garnish crumbled Stroopwafels. And you see like a growing trend right now. I mean, you see a booming trend of acai bowls, and it's just a really great product inclusion into an acai bowl. We're doing an LTO right now for our second time around with Yogurtland, and people are using it as spoons. That's their big marketing thing, is that they're using it in replacement of spoons. So having a lot of fun putting into milkshakes. And the best part about it is that it could be served obviously cold and warm. But the way that people warm it up is traditionally you take a cup of tea in the Netherlands, and Dutch tradition is that you put the stroopwafel, and that's why it's actually the size of a coffee mug. And so you put it right on top of the mug, and then the steam from the coffee or tea would actually warm up the caramel in between the two waffles. And so you get this outside crunchy, crispy, but you actually get this chewy inside. And so it's a delightful surprise. I ate one when I first partnered with Brand Passport every single day for a month, which probably wasn't the best thing for me, but I justified it by saying that it was just a really great replacement for breakfast. You see a lot of runners and a lot of folks in the athletes actually taking a stroopwafel and eating it in between as well. So it's been known for a variety of menu applications as well as purposes. So Brand Passport, well, who are we? We're a focused niche importer and distributor. So what we do is we take products that are very authentic products from Europe, and we import it into the US, and we actually distribute it. And it's only products, we hand select products that are actually made with the highest quality ingredients, very, very clean label. And we offer a reliable supply chain, and we offer consumer insights, culinary support, and marketing to help drive incremental revenue, repeat business for our food service customers. And our part of our 3 pillars of our food service promise, obviously, is that we are the one source of contact for US. We have a reliable supply chain. Anything that you import from overseas, as you can imagine, take a very long time and can actually be held up at the dock and et cetera. All of those kind of supply chain nightmares, we actually get rid of all of those and make it very seamless. First, in terms of the product, stroopwafels for Dahlman's, stroopwafels is the #1 selling stroopwafel in the US as well as worldwide. There are other brands out there that are not made from the Netherlands, and don't have that authentic ingredient. But globally, we are the #1 selling product and brand. And we offer a wide kind of variety of menu applications from, again, we say, it's for all the day parts. You start off with the stroopwafel, and you can also end your day with the stroopwafel. And it's a really low waste, easy to use, long shelf life, 2-year shelf life. And we help to kind of increase the average check and create a really good guest experience. And again, we are able to provide menu ideation, culinary inspiration, and turnkey solutions to help with menu development. And we're small and flexible and nimble organization with a really food service focused leadership team. My partnership with Brand Passport is Jeff Miller, my partner, and I. We are the co-CEOs for Cutting Edge Innovation. We act as a fractional head of food service for a variety of clients. And so Brand Passport happens to be one of my clients that I represent. And Brand Passport, we represent actually more than just the stroopwafel, although that is the #1 selling product for us in food service. We have the Jules to Strooper. If you actually go to Kroger and you shop there, or if you go to World Market, Cost Plus, you'll see a lot of their products there. But really amazing, indulgent wafers, butter crisp that actually are made with European authentic butter, and some of these other brands that you may not see, be aware of, but these are some of the other brands that are available as well.
Hey, Julie, on that subject, I looked up the Jules de Strooper, recently.
Yeah.
I was amazed at the many different flavors that are offered and the packaging that they do on it. It's pretty incredible.
Yeah, and we are working on trying to see if we could partner with them to bring a food service package product into the US as well. And there's some products like the butter crisp that I talked about, but there's also these ginger crisp and all these other products that just, again, really add and enhance menu and beverage innovation that we think are may be a really great fit for food service, and more to come on that. And so as in terms of consumer awareness, I mean, these are we're in 70,000 stores. I remember when I worked in my past life, I was part of a brand that was within 40,000 stores, and I thought that was a lot, but pretty much you could find Dahlman's stroopwafels in anywhere that you shop. And the beautiful part about that is but it's driving consumer awareness, especially when they go to that kind of European imported cookie aisle. It is by far, and I'm going to share a little bit more on this, by far the best sellers in terms of how it ranks against the competition. And so what we haven't, and we've made some really great inroads in food service, but we could definitely do more. And I think the GCIA, ICCA partnership is going to open up a lot of doors for us in that way to bring the products that the consumers love into the industry. And I'm going to talk a little bit about trends, right? Because everyone loves to talk about trends. But if you really think about the millennial money, and we talk about this all the time, I think we talked about it at the GCIA, that people have forgotten the Gen Xers, or even a generation that exists. But millennial money, I mean, millennials and Gen Z, right? I have a Gen Z, I think. I have two Gen Zs, twins. But my kids like eat sushi, and I don't even think I wanted to eat sushi when I was growing up. But globally inspired recipes are appealing to the millennials and Gen Z, and anything that is, I think Jack Lee from Data Central talks about it a lot, but anytime you could do like fuse ubiquity, I think that's what he calls it, like take a product that's from something else and put it into another product and come out with something. It's less polarizing, it's less risky to actually put it on a menu. And you'll see some applications where we're able to actually do that, but Gen Z consumers will actually go out of their way to try a new food. And they have the discretionary income. So obviously, because it's coming from us. No. And then just no brainer here, because who doesn't love ice cream? But ice cream is hot. And so modern comfort food is increasing. Obviously, everyone knows that. But with ice cream being consumed by 90% of US households, it's really no surprise that operators say sweet menu items have boosted their profits. Ice cream can be boring. It could actually be a little bit hard to make it differentiated, right? And so add a little Stroopwafel, make it into an ice cream sandwich. I mean, there's some really creative ways. We've actually folded, you warm it up on a skillet a little bit, and you fold it, and you can make it into a taco. A taco shaped right here, if you see on the left, and put some ice cream, and then now you just got an ice cream waffle.
Well, that's really
taco.
cool. I see how that could bend really easily, because once you warm it up, it is totally different.
Yeah, it's very pliable. And then obviously we said that we start off our day, we could start our day with a Stroopwafel and end our day with a Stroopwafel. But we do know that Americans love coffee, and we took a traditional Stroopwafel that people put on top of tea in Europe to actually, make that mainstream into the US. And so, again, you could literally fit this Stroopwafel right on top of a coffee cup, and it just melts it. And it's just a really great way to kind of increase the average check and make products, make it a little bit more interesting and enhance the menu a little bit. And then mixology obviously is the marvels of mixology. It's but just a really great, again, because of the certain flavors and it's just a very complex flavor, and you get these flavors at each bite in a different you start tasting the waffle, and then when you bite into it, you get that caramel note, and you get that cinnamon note and maple note. And so when putting it as a garnish to some of our favorite, cocktails and drinks, I think, this might be actually a really a big no-no, but we did have somebody dip it into bourbon the whole entire time that we were at GCIA. And it just really created a different experience. And so just adding a little bit of garnish can go a long way. And then obviously mocktails. I mean, we even talked about this, I think, a little bit at one of the breakout sessions, but 57% of global consumers are planning to follow dry January this year. And 40% expect to drink more non-alcoholic beverages. And so, and then millennials and Gen Zs are becoming more blenders, and they're actually more creative with some of these drinks. I have a long history with working for Starbucks for a very long time. And I remember frappuccinos were things of the mid-afternoon and mid-morning. And I wake up at 4 o'clock in the morning to go work out, as everyone at GCIA knows, because That's what I was doing there. But then I go to Starbucks and I see Frappuccinos at 6 in the morning. So I think that that it's been a great way for some of our operators to use the products to create some fun mocktails as well as some creative beverages with our products with the Stroopwafel as a garnish as well. And so where have we been very successful? I mean, we're known for a lot of different products. Like I mentioned a few of them with Yogurtland and other operators, but our biggest is everyone who's been on a United flight probably has seen our Stroopwafel. There was about 60 million Stroopwafels served annually on United Airlines. So huge cult following with huge brand awareness to them. And we created a special size so that it would fit over that United cup. So it made a really big positive impact in our sales, but also just social media has been just awesome. And there was one period, actually a fun fact, where United actually discontinued the product and there was an uproar on social media. They actually had to put it back on the menu. So, or put it back on the offerings. So there you go. Don't ever take it off the menu once you put it on. That's note to self. And then McDonald's actually did a month long international worldwide favorites menu for globally. And our Stroopwafel was the one that was selected. And it was widely popular. I'd love for McDonald's, if they're on the call, to actually bring it back. So I don't know if they're on the call, but I know it's being recorded. So let's get it to them and get in their hands. So what makes Dahlman's different? Well, truly, it's just the quality of the product. Yes, Dahlman's has been around for over 120 years. There are the facility and all of the manufacturing facility are all of the certifications you can imagine. But really, the quality of the product and the authenticity of the product has not changed. Dahlman's is the #1 brand Stroopwafel in the world for a reason. Each Stroopwafel contains more than 50% of caramel, which is a lot more than what our competitors are using. And we offer 3 different sizes so that you could use it for different applications in the US, and those are very customized to the US market. And again, it really creates a richer, flavorful experience, and it's a really super thin waffle that really delivers that crisp toasted texture, especially when it's really warm. Some of the qualifications: kosher, dairy certified, preservatives free, no artificial colors or flavors, and then quality ingredients with Rainforest Alliance certified cocoa. And then we offer, again, 3 different sizes, not to go into really kind of the technical aspect, but we do offer 3 different sizes. They come frozen. We also have shelf stable products as well. We also have retail, obviously, products that are packaged. And so if you have a fast casual or QSR that offers some type of a grab and go as well, it's a really great way to actually increase the average check right at the cashier. But the way that the food service product is packed and currently provided today, we offer a really good way to transport the products. And again, 2-year shelf life, very minimal prep time, and you just actually just thaw and serve. Those are the 3 different sizes that we spoke about. So kind of going back to where we are as in terms of the category leader, if you look at and this is IRA data for retail. If you look at Stroopwafels versus Total Cookie and Specialty Cookie, we outrank the Total Cookie and Specialty Cookie by far. And again, people know that it's actually Dahlman's. It's also the product, as everyone knows, Trader Joe's is very well known for private labeling everything with Trader Joe's. It is one of the very few products that are actually branded in Trader Joe's as well. Here's a little bit about market domination, and then fans show their love from around the world. Again, products are very, like the Stroopwafel is very Instagrammable. It just looks really great. And so we've gotten a lot of social media buzz and love. So if you don't follow us, please do. And then again, our food service partnership expands outside of just providing products, but we love to be a part of the solution and part of coming up with just great ideas and being strategic partners to our food service operator and chain partnerships. So we look forward to being a partner of GCIA for a very long time and would love to work with many of you to help figure out ways to bring international flavor and indulgence to your menu. How about that, Kevin? That was 22 minutes.
That's perfect.
Less than that.
Awesome. Thanks so much. Hey, everyone, what we're going to do next is we're going to go to James Bickmore-Hutt. And so what we want you to do is to actually, let me get him on here. What we're going to do is ask you if you have any questions for either of these speakers, put it in the chat area. And what we'll do then is, be able to really, kind of go into that at the end of this. So James is here to talk to us. James, so great to have you again, talk with us here. We thought it was perfect because they were talking so much about like using it as, a garnish for mocktails and cocktails and things. And you're the expert at that. So we thought going into the holidays, this is a perfect time to have you on to talk about, all right, what's going on? What can we expect that's going to be new in the cocktail mocktail world, especially coming into this holiday period and even for next year? So,
yeah. Good day. Thanks. Thank you so much for having me and inviting me to do it. Sorry for hopefully it's not too blurry. I'm currently sitting in a hotel room.
No, it's not bad.
On break from prep for a conference up here. Yeah, it's really interesting. What we're seeing in cocktails and mocktails is this really big emergence around, the savory, and then also kind of like the elevation of novelty, right? So we're seeing obviously this idea of flavors like Chinese 5-spice or cardamom, or even MSG, right? That kind of like MSG margarita that was kind of made famous in Brooklyn. I think there is this really amazing kind of burgeoning drive around how do we make cocktails and even non-alcoholic cocktails more compelling and more convincing and more-ish in general, right? How do you consume more so that it doesn't saturate your palate, so it doesn't ruin the rest of your meal, so that it doesn't blow out the flavor perception of the partnered ingredients, or that it gives you a more kind of robust or developed dine out if you are just out having drinks with friends rather than partnering with food. So how we're doing this, or kind of how, we're tracking this trend, is not necessarily watching menu mentions, because I think something like that is very hard to kind of predict. If you were to try and look mocktails up on any trend, I think mocktail as a term is really only penetrated like up around 1% of menus, right? As kind of trendy as a phrase as mocktail has kind of become, it's still not really utilized and kind of consumed by the general public. We're seeing now kind of like this idea of, our operators utilizing more brand appropriate phrasing for non-alcoholic cocktails. Are they using phrases and terms that kind of help the designated driver or the participating drinkers? Are they using terms that help them and their decision to not have an alcoholic beverage that much easier and a little bit more kind of like socially acceptable, right? I suppose the phrase mocktail was kind of has had a bit of a downturn in terms of it's seen as a little bit more derogatory, especially given the effort that sometimes goes into these non-alcoholic beverages. So when we kind of watch these trends, we're actually largely watching the retail grocery set and the huge growth behind RTD beverages, ready-to-drink beverages. So kind of like the fully composed and kind of fully completed, concepts that consumers can still get, classic cocktails or even more kind of trend forward and thematic cocktails in a pre-carbonated or pre-packaged format. But this is actually meaning that the onus is now kind of coming into the restaurant side of things, is executing a beverage or executing a cocktail or a mocktail faster, right? Delivering it more instantaneous and more readily made to the end consumer. So it's a double-edged sword, right? Because while they want to see the beverage come to them faster, they also still want to see the show behind it. They still want to see the establishment of flavors. They still want to see the care that's going into it. So I suppose we're kind of running this now question of, what do you have to give up, right? What part of the process can you relinquish on in order to deliver both wants and needs? So we're seeing stuff like, either rapid infusions being done, or kind of a little bit more elevated, I suppose, tweaks behind some well liquor. So kind of like scaling up well liquor and giving it a house touch, whether it's infusions or smoke, obviously is still kind of hanging around a little bit, right? But it's kind of giving this elevated perception of care taken into, which can be done in batch, in large scale, so that it doesn't increase the build time behind the bar. What we're also seeing is, again, going back to that savory idea, is we're seeing a little bit more kind of complexity coming from spices and kind of pantry usage when building out a beverage. This is allowing kind of that consumer experience to not be overly saturated when having super sweet or super complex cocktails. So we're finding cocktails, that are using either regionally specific spices or aromatics or herbs in order to kind of add body and depth and complexity, while still then providing some reference back to a partnered menu. Or we're seeing beverage and kind of cocktail menus providing their own kind of story and experience that doesn't necessarily need to be anchored to a culinary experience. So there's some really interesting kind of trends that we're witnessing, but a lot of it is really being anchored back to this idea of, how do you tell a story rapidly, where the consumer doesn't have to wait for as long as a traditional, tiki cocktail, for sake of example, right? Where typically those drinks are, the bane of every bartender's existence, right? Because the minute you get asked for 5 of them, it's slowed your entire production down, and you're in the weeds crushing ice and chipping it away at something, right? And hand carving some fruit item, or shoving pineapple fronds into the top of every drink. So I think there is this really interesting kind of like movement away from the overt complex builds and into kind of taking a little bit of a note out of the back of house, right? Where speed scratch items and stuff like that was used to kind of build sauces and, complex and beautiful dishes, but just doing it a hell of a lot faster and making it easier. So that's what I'm kind of watching and kind of keeping an eye on, and trying to make sure that I keep up with, around the ideation that we're doing at Dole, and just kind of professionally and personally watching it through the industry. Another kind of massive trend that I'm watching, Kevin, is, this idea that in the recessionary market, as we're going into holidays, people are looking for, I suppose, the travel that is local, right? The tour around the world that they don't have to get on a plane and spend a ton of money for, or, the experience that they can have maybe in their local or in their favorite restaurant, that gives them the experience of being away without necessarily having to, tighten the belt for the rest of the fiscal year, if you will. So we're seeing a lot of those trends coming out as well. And around this time of the year, a lot of it is kind of leaning into either, nostalgic favorites, or kind of like those hot and classic, traditional, holiday vacations where a lot of the snowbirds disappear to somewhere warm, and they're looking for those kind of like beachside classics that they can get in, a simple format, so somewhere close by.
Awesome. Hey, I'm going to also, let's bring Keith Brunel's with us too. So Keith obviously
Heyo,
has got a lot of
buddo.
experience in cocktails and got a few other people on too. If somebody else wants to come on or get on the chat to ask some questions, I think it'd be great. But I've got a question for you first, James. Like,
Yeah.
is anybody coming to you, like I love your point about what's happening in the economy and what people are looking to do or whatever. Has anybody come to you and said, we're trying to look to lower cost, not so much cost of the cocktail, but lower the price of the cocktail to consumers? Are they asking? Because I would assume that's got to be a catch for people to bring new customers in to see if you can, lure them in, be it, specialty nights or, happy hours or whatever.
Yeah, I mean it's a tough time, right? Because I think, during a recessionary market, the consumer expects to see deals appear, right? They have like this preconceived notion that just because it's tight on them, it's got to be given easier to them, and that those variance in costs have to really come out of the operator's pocket rather than out of their pocket. So it's a tough one because yes, we are seeing those questions. We're seeing that need of kind of having to provide solutions or provide concepts that are fitting the kind of like buy one get one, or the larger format shareable concept that a group can all buy into and spend proportionally less as a group or per person rather. So yeah, we're certainly seeing that. A lot of what we're also seeing is this idea of kind of taking a little bit of the labor time out of it so that it makes better kind of like food cost to the operator, so that there can be like the general tweaking to the consumer facing cost, but still makes it, fiscally appropriate to the operator. So it's a really tough battle because the consumers are expecting to see, $2 cocktails coming out of nowhere when, for the last 4 years, the New York City market has still been serving $18 cocktails.
Yeah.
So
yeah,
it's a tough one, right? Because I think historically during recessionary markets, the consumer it kind of goes like dichotomously to either end of the spectrum, right? They'll either, when they go out, they'll splurge and they'll go to something super expensive rather than going on a trip,
right.
or they'll look for the cheap deal and try and pick up 15 cocktails for them and their mates for less than $50.
Right. Yeah, no, it's true. And I love what you said too about the pre-packaging of cocktails, which brought to mind First Watch. That was probably one of the most genius moves I've ever seen in my life from the standpoint of service. And your point is awesome about that, because I think many of us who go to the restaurants and bars that have, the great cocktail menus are kind of frustrated with the fact that, oh my God, I mean, we did that. It was kind of funny in Nashville during GCIA. I mean, all of us, like 20, some of us walked into a high-end cocktail bar, and we only had about 20 minutes. I was so blown away that they actually did it, but we were smart. We didn't ask for the really tricky cocktails. Everybody's doing pretty much straightforward cocktails, but I was shocked. I think in 10 minutes, they got all 25 of us served in 10 minutes. I was totally blown away. But, some were bottles of wine. Some people were just getting like a, gin or vodka and soda or whatever it might be. But
you're dealing with a bartender dealing with a bartender that has a skill level that's way higher than the majority of the majority of the slingers out there, right? Like the majority of the gunslingers behind a bar are probably really adept at dealing with a bar blade and probably a towel, right? That's their like biggest skill set, is how to fling a bar blade around their finger and snap a couple of beers in quick succession and then wipe up the mess. So I think ultimately, you're right. I think the First Watch example is perfect, right? Being able to put stuff on tap, cocktails on tap, cocktails on, kind of like carbonated or nitro lines is really kind of strong and is certainly kind of being a labor solution. It's a really intriguing, world we're in at the moment, right? Where you got really different labor coming through, but a really kind of big drive around speed and expediency from the consumer. It doesn't really always match up.
Yeah. Hey, Keith, why don't you jump in on this conversation? What are you guys doing in the cocktail world that's unique and different, and solutions for you guys?
There we go. I'm off on mute. It's funny because I channeled my inner James when he was talking about this whole thing. My whole mind was saying, this is the kitchen speed scratch. This is the kitchen speed scratch. And all of a sudden, James like just busted it out.
That's it.
Anyways, it really is. Like, I think when it comes to, I'll start with the cocktail world first, is I do believe, right, when you homogenize your base syrups, even if they're homemade in-house, or if you're buying a syrup and then you're adding the alcohol component to it, as long as it doesn't have effervescence or something that might diminish. And all you're doing is shaking, finishing, and topping. I really believe it adds consistency, it adds quality, it adds speed to what you're doing. So I do believe in that whole process, and I 100% agree that we see it too. We're in this funny time where we have a very elaborate cocktail menu, all made from scratch and handmade cocktails. And we have our signature cocktails, our classic cocktails, and then our Nordstrom classics, right? But at lunch, sometimes we can't afford to have a bartender, but we have this menu. So now you have a bunch of servers, hopefully over 21, right, who have to go back and actually make these cocktails, but they're serving tables. So there has to be a give somewhere. So I believe that, where James alluded to, with this and having these base elements or even base cocktails to build upon, I think are ingenious and really a way of the future. I do see that there's two things happening. I do agree with the value part of it. We see happy hour continue to become stronger and stronger, and then we see premiumization become stronger and stronger. So there's this big gap that you're seeing as people have no problem spending $38 to $42 for a shot of tequila, and to do their Instagram moment with it. But then at the other hand, that's a moment in time. So your cocktail menu has to be strong to carry value at the happy hour level, but then also allow that premiumization. So I'm 100% there. And then just to kind of piggyback on some of the Stroopwafel conversation, again, when we present our Stroopwafel as part of our offering and we kind of put it with coffee, I never really thought about it as kind of a value add on the cocktail, and especially where we have brunch and some of these cocktails for the holidays that kind of pivot that way. And I do agree that there's this amalgamation of flavors, whether it's the cardamoms, the cloves, the cinnamons, and all these other nuanced flavors that really help that sweetness and nuttiness and butteriness that you get in a Stroopwafel carries well. So I'm going to actually go back and take this information I've learned and say, how can we look at Stroopwafels differently? And with our coffee program in the morning, is there you buy a coffee and then the Stroopwafel becomes almost like an add-on for where you make a little bit of money on it, but it becomes just something that adds value to your check. So this has been enlightening for me, but I do believe kind of what we're seeing a lot of the things that James said around the cocktail. And the other thing we've seen is no one has a problem if it's done correctly and the portion's right of paying $12 to $13 for what we call a spirit-free type cocktail, mocktail. We see that if it's done right and played really well, the customers are going to over-index, and then they're going to go there for it. But it has to be a value. It can't be 3 ounces over an ice cube. We realize that doesn't work for us. It has to present a value.
Yeah, I have a question for you guys on that. And then Julie, I've got one for you right after this. But on that front, like with mocktails, I know, well, we have a son who is in ministry and doesn't drink, right? So it's kind of cool. And he gravitates to mocktails. So, I mean, is there more of that, or are people going out with their kids? He's not a kid. He's 25 years old. But are people going out with their kids, and because they're ordering a big bottle of wine or they're doing cocktails, they're saying, well, I feel like I need to do this for my kid as well? Is there a lot of that goes on? I don't mean by young kids, but, teenagers or whatever.
From my perspective, looking at it from the consumer end, I do believe that's part of the consideration set. It's the soccer mom who's had a really busy day and doesn't want a glass of wine, and they want that type of spirit-free or that mocktail, but they want it to feel like a cocktail. They want to feel like they belong, or it's part of that. And the way we divide our NA beverage program on the mocktail or spirit-free side is we have the spirit-free, which are more handcrafted style cocktails that we get a premium for. And then we have just our regular, what we call the lilac fizz, our gingerberry smash, and some of those that are more kind of what I would say your $750 to $850 just great NA non-cocktail beverages. So I do agree, Kevin, that people who are imbibing on the spirit-free cocktails are making a conscientious decision, and part of that I do believe without a doubt is the group they're with, or if they're with kids, and or they're just not participating, but they still want to go out and hang. And that's where the glassware, the garnish, the ice cube, the presentation, how it's presented at the table all play into that what people pay a premium for.
Do you want to add to that, James?
Yeah, I mean, I'm pretty along the same lines. I think there's this idea of kind of like getting everybody in on the same, kind of like experience when you're going out as a family. So, I think the spirit-free kind of like mocktail idea is that it's something that everybody can kind of like taste at the table, right? And so it's allowing kind of like this idea of, sharing in the experience and kind of removing the taboo of just the adult drink at the table. And so it's kind of like democratizing everything when you kind of sit down with a family of like really vocal kids, or even younger adults who are just choosing to live a certain lifestyle. And I think it's also kind of finding place now in kind of social media for, I think there was a pretty big stir that was caused maybe about a year ago where I think, Dax Shepard and Kristen Bell, if anybody knows who those celebrities are, right? They became infamous for saying, that their kids' favorite beverages were non-alcoholic beer, right? And so it was just this like funny, thing of, where Dax Shepard, who is a famous, recovering addict, says that he only has non-alcoholic beer at home and his kids love drinking it with him. And it became this whole taboo thing of, why should kids not enjoy that? If it has no alcohol, why is there taboo around it? So I think the idea of kind of, spirit-free kind of enjoyment at the table where, even young adults or even younger kids are kind of getting into the same experience as their parents, I find it really interesting, especially when you've got kind of like spirit-free companies, out there that are making like, alcohol-free gin, right? Which is really interesting, which is just flavored water, right?
But you know what? It's really good. When we've done the Whole30 diets, I'd go home at night because there's no alcohol allowed. And we bought that. And in your mind, you still feel like you're having a drink. And there's something cool about that. And it's not, high in calorie or anything else. I think it's a genius product. Some of the other ones don't really work, but gin is easy to pull off, right? Because you know what those flavors are.
Yeah, sure.
Right. And you're right. It's flavored water. That's what it is.
Yeah. And Kevin, I heard I just got an email that they finally were able to knock off a non-alcoholic tequila. Wow. I just got an email that is now out and about. But James, you mentioned something that's funny, because when I do well with my kids and we'll go to the spirit-free cocktails, we have one that's called the Duke, which is it's an Earl Grey kind of syrup with lemon, and it's really well balanced, And then we have one that's called the Golden Hour. That's a pineapple shrub that has a vanilla syrup or a clove syrup on top of vanilla soda. Nice. And it's like $13, and my damn kids want to order those, and I'm like, well, these aren't like order 3 of these things, It's like you only get one, but they think that like I'm going to drink 3 of these because they taste so great. I'm like, no refills.
Yeah, no kidding.
Yeah, it's true, because they're so used to the Coke or whatever, getting free refills. So you could just sell them a large batch at $39 or something.
Yeah, but I would agree that and I didn't think about this, is the kids' participation in some of these types of things that who knows, that could proliferate and get bigger down the line of just adapting into these beverages. Yeah.
Hey, Julie, I've got a question for you. Like, it's really kind of interesting. How do you guys approach, a cocktail account, be it an independent restaurant or a chain, especially from the, the garnish, side? Because I know a lot of times you're probably dealing with our members who are bringing it in maybe as a topping on dessert or some other things or whatever it might be. But when it gets into the cocktail side, do you have to get to a whole different apartment, to talk to people about it? Or where's this go with you guys?
It's funny, actually. So our focus mainly has been in coffee, desserts, and in that space. And the person that actually gave me the idea for the cocktail mocktail was Alex, even though we had it on Instagram and the consumers are using it in that way. Like they were just having it on charcuterie boards anyway. So while they were drinking, they would just put it into their martini glass and they would take a picture and all that stuff. But so it was the consumers, right? Everything crazy happens on Pinterest and TikTok. So, but then Alex was like, hey, you need to start talking to, it was just one of those dinners that we had. And so it's a new kind of avenue that we're approaching. I mean, I would assume that we would definitely have to start talking to, the folks in charge of beverage and bakery, beverages and, on that side more than the bakery side and, all of those. So, and I think it'll be fun, but yeah, to answer your question, I think it'd be a different decision maker, definitely.
Yeah, it's a great idea. And I also love the fact of the charcuterie board. I never really thought of it that way, but it's a perfect, I mean, honey's on, 90% of the boards out there anyway, right?
Yeah.
So this is an
and we had a
alternate to
couple
that.
of them.
Yeah.
We had a couple of them at the GCIA event that I like half of, and I should have taken some mini Stroopwafels and put it in there, make a flower out of it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm surprised
Well,
Alex
too,
didn't.
especially the large ones. You can cut them into pie shape or triangles or whatever you want to call it, right? It's very decorative on a platter.
I mean, the easiest stuff, if you think about just making anything look good, right? Like, I mean, you could take a regular cupcake and literally put it on top and then just people scoop the whipped cream out of it. I mean, it's just really a good way to we want to use the product as much as possible, right? I mean, operators want to bring in a product and use it as much as possible. So if you're using it just as a single on top of your coffee, and then actually we're going to put it on top of your, cupcake, and we're going to put it on your cheesecake, and it just goes really well with everything. And then now we're going to do it at night, with cocktails. So
yeah, we did
yes.
that at our NRA reception in Chicago. We took the small ones. It was the perfect garnish, for a cheesecake or for other desserts that we had on display. Keith, you were going to say something. Sorry, I interrupted.
Yeah, if you want that product to really become ubiquitous, it needs to go to the Texas State Fair and they need to fry it. So Alex is probably going to bring that idea to you soon. So that's how you take it to the next level. Stuff it, fry it, bring it to the Texas State Fair.
I wouldn't be surprised if he actually did it, because I'm not
sure he did.
Every single day he ate about 18 every day. I think he was walking around counting it like, this is my 18th one, this is my 19th one. Yeah.
It needs to become part of the next s'more, right? Like I'm just keep thinking out loud, right?
Yeah. That's another
Julie,
great idea,
back to you again, too. Another question. I know you mentioned chicken and waffles, which is a great idea as well.
Yes.
Is there any other kind of savory dishes you guys are pairing it with? I mean, I know charcuterie boards have that as well, but.
Yeah, we've had some, it's really funny because the product is, again, in retail everywhere, and it's just really growing in food service recently, right? So outside of those kind of specialty self-distributed, the product's available through Dot right now. But so when we're at NRA, it's so crazy how people will walk up to you and they'll be like, I own this one restaurant and I use it to do this. And I'm like, whoa, okay. But I mean, literally people have come up to us and said they use it for taco shells, and they've used it for, they put some type of like a protein on top of it. And again, like I was sharing that, cyclists and runners, actually, it's so small that they actually put it in because it has like this way of kind of the sugar releases slower or something, whatever, right? So it gets you that boost. And so I think like to get protein in there, a lot of restaurants have kind of told us that. But again, like the flavors that Keith were talking about, it is so complex, but it comes in different bites. Like you literally bite it and you get a different flavor every time. And so it just pairs well with a lot of savory, more than you would actually think. We put Mike's Hot Honey on top of it one time, and it was just amazing. Right? It's just so good. So, and a lot of folks have, again, going back to the charcuterie board, but like, putting out like their meat and cheese kind of board, they literally put it on there and people use it to scoop up their brie, and so there's been a lot of applications like that as in terms of sweet and savory.
Yeah, I love the molding too. I think making that taco shell out of it or whatever you want to call it, right? I think it's brilliant, because it's something that's not going to break, right? I mean, you'd have to really
you just warm it up.
work at it to break it. Yeah. Yeah. Hey, Keith, on the holiday, I know we were talking a little bit about holidays and, things trending and whatever. What do you guys do? I know it's got to be a crazy time for you and your stores, so what do? Do you like get away from doing new and special things and just keep the core menu going? Or do you really try to step it up for the holidays?
No, we step it up for the holidays. I think part of what we look at for the holidays is things that are familiar, they're celebratory, they're quick pickup times because you're trying to turn your tables faster. And you don't want to leave $1 on the table. So people are looking to indulge a little bit more, but you got to have the right items. And so we look at, on the cocktail side, more indulgent drinks, things that people are going to really dig into, but things that are familiar and kind of holiday-ish. And on the menu side, the same. And then coffee, I think, is we're just like everyone else, right? It's all about peppermint. It's all about mocha. It's all about eggnog. And then, sometimes we play in the gingerbread game, but but I do believe, right? I think that, like, just a conversation we've had on the Stroopwafel, I think it lends itself well to immediately add value, right, to what you're doing without labor. Like, I think that's just like, I wrote a note down before I even spoke. Like, I'm going to reach out to Kyrie and just say, hey, is there anything we can do with any of the drinks we had and incorporate some Stroopwafel action for November, December, January? So yeah, we invest in holidays and innovation, and I think it's about smart innovation now. You just can't throw everything at the kind of into the mix. You got to look at it from a labor perspective, a cost perspective, and make sure what you do is driving margins, repeat trips, or kind of, that those Instagram or memorable moments that people want to come back next year.
That's
yeah,
awesome.
Keith, you know who you have to call right after that, right?
Oh yeah.
Nice.